Hello and welcome to the Construction Cashflow Podcast going live for the very first time. And it's a pleasure today to have in the studio Robin Hayhurst. Robin is an experienced construction director, really. He's run a number of construction projects, and including starting when he was young in the trenches. And he's progressed on and he's seen his fair share of failure and success, and also runs a podcast, which is The Other Side of Bust. And so it's with great pleasure to introduce mentor and coach, Robin Hayhurst. Hello, Robin. How are you doing today?
Hi, Stu. Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it. My podcast.
Oh, that's great.
Bust and Beyond.
So this, this is the very first time we've gone live. So there may be a few teething problems. So, maybe it's conducive to our title, which is The Other Side of Navigating the Path, the Other Side of Failure. So this might be one of my main catastrophic failures. And that's no reflection on my guest. It's probably the way I set this up. So we've got a bit of a lag on the audio, but let's hope it sorts itself out. So Robin, hopefully you can hear me okay. Is that audio okay for you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. There's just a very short lag on it. So something to work on for next time. But welcome to the live podcast event, and welcome for being my first live guest, which is absolutely amazing to have such a distinguished guest and a knowledgeable, experienced guest in the construction industry. So I'm really interested. I love listening to podcasts, and I love listening to your podcast. And you've got a podcast, Beyond Bust. Tell us what motivated you to start that. What was the trigger to start that podcast? And what was the story behind it, really?
Well, the story really was my story. So it was about the failure of family company in 2015, which hit me really hard. It really was kind of a life-changing event. And it was quite a lonely thing to do, despite the fact I was working with my father at the time. I wanted to keep out of it. I had to get up every morning and kind of carry on functioning, despite the fact that the company's failing. People that still relied on me to try and do the best I could to get them their money out of the situation. So I felt 2 years, in the first 2 years after, it was really, I blamed everyone else. And then after about 2 years, I started looking at myself and the things I'd done wrong and kind of analysing that. And I suddenly realised about a year ago, just over that there's a lot of people going through this. There's a lot of failure. I mean, every competitor that I ever had, most have gone bust. And there's been a big tranche of them in the last years. And it's a lonely thing to do. I thought it'd be nice to show people there is bust and there is beyond, and how you can kind of turn it into a positive, and how also normal is part of learning, it's part of life, part of business. And you seem to be very ashamed of it in this country because we ignore failure. But even if you look at the icons of business, the Richard Bransons and the Schultz, they've all failed. They just don't talk about it.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you can become a safer pair of hands if you have failed, because it's sometimes, unfortunately, the only way we learn lessons, isn't it?
Oh, I totally agree with that. And I absolutely couldn't do what I do now, which is mentor construction development without what I learned failure, because you don't learn a lot of success. You don't analyze it in the same way. You don't think about, what went wrong or what went right. You just enjoy the success and you think that's good. But you tend to analyze failure in a completely different way.
Yeah, I think so. And do you think we sometimes label failure and success it's kind of dualistic, isn't it? In a way, we label what is failure or success, and that's quite subjective. And sometimes we think we're really, we have fear around what we perceive to be failure. But in certain ways, it can be construed as a success if it's you come out of it knowing that there's a learning that you've had that you perhaps wouldn't have got otherwise.
If we don't try and we don't risk failure, we'll not succeed. So if you think about your earliest years, or you can't remember them, I can't remember either, but a baby trying to stand up doesn't do it first time. It falls over many, many times and learns from that. It's just a part of life. It's part of life failing. And there is a company that I think Stephen Bartlett, he rewards failure. He rewards failure in the fact that if you fail because you've tried something new that has failed, then he rewards that. The fact you tried, the fact you came up with something new, the fact you tried it. And I think that's a really good approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we don't take risks. We don't fail. Sometimes we can't progress. You're obviously you see people and you mentor people that may have been through failure or business is going bust. When they come to you and you speak to people, what is there a kind of a most common emotion or reaction that they're going through? What when they present themselves to you, how's their comportment? What are they kind of thinking?
Well, I've got to kind of turn that question a little bit, because I don't really mentor people that have gone bust. I mean, there is a couple that have been bust in the past. I think the problem is in our industry particularly, it's a very male-orientated, very macho industry, and we aren't readily open to help. The most successful businesses that I coach have already had a coach at some stage, so they understand the benefit of coaching and being mentored. But lots of companies, and it's a real sad fact, is that I approach them, I talk to them about their company, about what could go on, and they say, yeah, definitely, haven't got time, we haven't got the money, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. And that 9 months later, I find out they've actually gone bust because the failure rate is so high. Submitting to being supported, I think, is something that people find really difficult. Whereas the top companies that I coach, they are very open to coaching, and their business is amazing. And it's really flying, but they've still got things to do and things to improve. But what I do is very simple. It's not complicated. It's not brain surgery. But it's things that people aren't doing.
And what do you think the things are that they're not doing, the simple things that generally they don't really do?
Oh gosh, that's an open-ended question. It does boil down to being the key thing is consistent in everything they do. But the problem is a lot of people approach problems by burying their head in the sand. If I don't find out what that tax is, I won't have to worry about it. If I find out what my cash flow forecast is for the next 12 months, I won't have to worry about it. It's kind of finding out what's going wrong in your business and correcting it. So it's all around cash flow, KPIs, so key performance indicators, really, really important. Understanding what to measure and what it means to your business, because they're the indicators of what you need to fix and what you need to change. Employing in panic. We have lots of companies that are growing really quickly, but growth is dangerous. And suddenly go, gosh, I need someone, and you just employ someone, the person that comes along, because you're so desperate, because you haven't planned that. You get a team around you. So people are a big part of what people do. Wrong, really. They employ the wrong people for the wrong roles, and they don't have the systems in place. They abdicate rather than delegate. I could go on forever. There's loads of simple stuff that people do wrong in running their business, and particularly in construction. So if you think about the average business owner, they've either been trained, they've got trade, so someone's trained them to do that, or they've got a profession, and again, someone's trained them to do that profession. So it might be a mentor, it might be to university, it might be they've gone to college, someone has taught them. And then they go, all right, I am going to try and get to run a business because I'm really good at this. I'm a really good player. I'm a really good contractor. I'm going to run a business. But they forget, no one's trained them to do it. No one's taught them how to run a business. And that really is a big problem.
Yeah, I suppose it was similar for me, really. I originally, I started on the tools and went on to become a chartered surveyor, but then I started a business. But although I may have attained some skills in that, nobody really taught me how to run a business. And I was 5 years into it before I actually started to systemize the business, and there's so many things that you either don't know or don't have time to do. You're quite often doing the job, if you like, working in the business rather than working on your business, as you say, setting out KPIs and looking after your cash flow, mastering your numbers, but so many other things as well. When you have people working for you, employees, how do you treat them? How do you get the best out of them? There's so many different things. Have you got the right contract terms in place? Are you working with the right clients? And sometimes there's you tend to, one of the things I let slip quite often as a one-man band, if you like, is the marketing side of things. And then you get to the end, you're not marketing continuously. You get to the end of a job, and then you're rushing around trying to get more work, and you're taking on work that you wouldn't really want to take on. So there's so many different things that lead to that. Those inefficiencies really, and can set you on a downhill spiral, before you know it.
Yeah, I think the spinning plate saga, isn't it? You've got so many plates to spin, and systems take you to systemize that and to be consistent in that. So systems are really important. But you mentioned about employing people and looking after them. Mentoring within your own business is really important, and having a structure for that is important. So again, my best clients, my successful ones, I go in and mentor the business owner. They see the benefit of it, and I end up mentoring other members of the team. I've done most jobs in construction, so get people the right mindset, understanding what's happening, but also having the whole team understand where the business is going and why it's going there and how it affects them. So one of the kind of great gems we do is we kind of help people to build their 5-year business. So you look ahead and you say, right, what's going to look like in 5 years? Not just your turnover, which, let's face it, it just tells you the size, it doesn't tell you very much more about you. But who's going to be working for you? What's the structure? What's their role? What kind of jobs are you going to be doing? So by building a 5-year business in huge detail, having all the roles spelt out, you can then look within your organisation, see who can fill those roles in the future, also where the gaps are. So it might be that employing a project manager or site manager, but you're looking at one that might become a construction doctor in the future. So you're looking for different people with different calibers. It's a two-way street, that is. That means that not only are you looking for better people, but you can actually attract better people because they can move within your company. So building your 5-year company is so important to understanding where business is going and making every decision that you have made, around that 5-year business, around what the changes you make. You don't make decisions for now, you make them for the future, and they're much more powerful that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think mind you, sometimes it's quite hard to look that far in the future, isn't it? A 5-year plan. But I think, as you say, you set that back to how that looks this week, and in a month's time and a year's time, and then you can project it out. So, what does success look like to you, Robin?
Success. Success for me, or success for clients and the industry?
I think for you first. Let's start with you. What does success look like for you?
Well, for me, I've pivoted a career. So a career of construction, running and development, running businesses. I now help people, I mentor people. I love it. So success to me is to have a big influence on the industry really, and try and have a change to people's attitude. Trying to make a dent in that failure rate, making it bring down. Because it's a fantastic industry. There's huge opportunity. There are things wrong with the industry. I often talk about that on LinkedIn. Clients need to have a different perspective. Stop racing to the bottom on price. We've got to change, but we need those skills. We need those. We have got to understand what cash flow forecast is. We've got to understand how useful it is. So success really is to have that impact in the industry, and I can stand back now and say that, and being able to kind of help people all around the country. And I already help people most areas of the country. I'm in Manchester, Brighton. I travel a lot. I never used to travel before, so I now stay at hotels. And there's still holiday places to me, so I'm still enjoying it. So I stay at hotels around the country and meet different clients, and I enjoy it.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, actually, yeah, Brighton. You mentioned Brighton, so that's where I'm from, and so I'm kind of living the dream, if you like. So it's a lovely place by the coast there. Everything, there's something for everyone there. Whatever you like to do, and lots of construction going on, and building universities, and so it's kind of with all the doom and gloom. I mean, there seems to be plenty of activity and things going on down here anyway. So so just turn the telly off for a while, I say, and just come down the beach.
You're so right. There is some doom and gloom on television and in social media. None of my clients are struggling them, and some of them are amazing projects. So you can sit there and you can go, "Oh, everyone else, it's not me," or you can analyse what you're doing and think about what you can do better, get back out there and find that work, because I can see now it's there.
What inspires and motivates you, Robin?
Oh gosh. At the moment, it's helping people. I love to see my clients kind of get that eureka moment, and it's coming together for them. And I get clients phone me up and go, "Look, my head's not in the right space. Can we meet in? Can we, And I go down there, and or I might phone them, and just that really inspires me. Really enjoy that. It kind of, if I get to the end of my life and I have helped a few hundred businesses get to where they need to be and had an influence on people's lives, it's really important. Many years ago, and I actually say selfish level, because I enjoy it so much. It's a selfish. I enjoy helping people. Okay, but many years ago, I had a young lad write to us and say, "Do we have positions for apprentice plumbers?" And I remember thinking, well, no, I haven't. We don't do that kind of thing. But he explained in his letter that he was due to get A stars in 3 A levels and that. And I said to him, and just to clarify, there's nothing wrong with being a plumber, fantastic. But I said to him, with that kind of qualification, have you ever thought going into surveying, going into management, something else? You might want to go and have a look at these courses, university courses. So I wrote a letter. I always try to write letters back, because when I was looking, literally writing 100 and getting one reply, I just felt the industry is very rude about replying to people. So I wrote back, I explained all this to him. And about a year later, postman arrived that I didn't recognise. He said, can I see Robin? And I thought, yeah, must just delivery or something. What's gone wrong here? Someone's asking. And he said, oh, Robin, he said, my son wrote to you, and you wrote back. And I just want to know that he's got himself a place at Reading University to a surveying degree, and he's so happy and he's so pleased that you kind of that direction. So a letter which had an impact on that lad's life, complete impact on his life, because I took the time just to send out 5 minutes, 10 minutes, writing a letter back to him, and it might have changed the outcome of what he's going to do in the future. And I think that's lovely. That's just a lovely thing involved with.
Isn't it amazing? And we never know, what we, the little actions we take and things we do to encourage people, how big an effect it can have. I suppose we've all been there. I always have this little saying that's large doors swing on small hinges, so it's just those little, those little things we can do that can make a big difference. Robin, I've just noticed that your side on the audio is crackling a little bit, and I'm not sure whether it might be worth just checking maybe going on to computer sound or just checking your headphones.
Okay, yeah, I can change the sound. Look.
That's great. I've just had a couple of messages in the chat with listeners saying it's really crackly. So I'm just going to see if we can improve that just a little bit, if we can. So it's me just typing a reply back to. So we've got some listeners from LinkedIn, Gareth and Browning. They've just said that it's a bit crackly. Yeah, how's that? Should we try that?
Hold on. Am I still crackly?
It's better. I think it's better. We'll carry on and we'll see how we get on. Yeah, much better. I think it sounds better. Let's see what response we get from some of the listeners as we go along. So Robin, tell us a challenge you overcame that changed your life.
Oh gosh. That's a really difficult question. I think life is a challenge, isn't it? I actually think that after we went bust, it was a very, very difficult time for me, and it affected my mental health. But I had some really good friends who supported me, and I remember when I first started doing this or working towards this kind of role, going on LinkedIn for the first time, be trolled. Put my head on the parapet was a really scary thing to do, but I did it, and it never happened, and no one trolled me, and I kind of got out there and did what I did. We all suffer from imposter syndrome, and I think imposter syndrome is a really big thing. It's something that keeps on coming up in my podcast, and I think that's a challenge. If we kind of give in to imposter syndrome and we don't live outside our comfort zone, our world becomes very small. So I think, imposter syndrome is something that I have struggled with in my life. And I've sat on government committees, I've sat on, I've been an exec at board meetings, stuff like that. And I always walk in going, oh God, they're going to find out I don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to not listen to me. I'm not going to have anything to say. And every time, 10 minutes, I realise, it's like that, and that I've got a lot of value and I've had a lot of experience. And I think what's really helped me with that is the coaching. So helping other people overcome their problem when the solution is really simple.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you raise about imposter syndrome. And I think as professional people, I speak to, quite often professional people suffer from it, because I think you quite often end up comparing yourself with others, thinking that maybe you don't go into a subject as deeply as somebody else, or, but someone once said to me recently that, and sometimes you say, oh, well, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to say that because it's just too obvious. They know that anyway, and you feel you've got to go into a deep dive on something. But somebody once said to me, quite recently, actually, if it's obvious to you, you're qualified to talk about it, and so I think, like you say, if you speak from your experience, you're qualified to speak from your experience, which is obvious to you, but it might not be obvious, and it might be interesting to somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear about this. I mentor part from my experience doing things right, but a lot of it isn't things that I did. It's things I actually put in place in my company. It's I should have put in place in my business. So in the power of hindsight said, oh, if only I'd done that, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done the other. So often, when I am mentoring someone, I'm saying, change this, put the system in place, it's because I hadn't done it and I let down in that area. So mentoring isn't just saying, look, I know how to run a successful business. Well, I do know how to run a successful business, but that's partly because I failed. And I've learned more from the failure and the failing in loads of things, employing the wrong people, not being able to get the team behind me the right way, not communicating properly, all the things that I did wrong, which I would now do right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's all very well. We're all fallible, aren't we? And we can't do everything exactly right. And in putting systems in place and getting people in place to support you is really key, isn't it? And interestingly, someone mentioned about the other day, we always talk about getting the right people in place. But sometimes it's learning to, when you're just starting out, you can't always afford the right people, if you like. So you've got to learn to work with the wrong people and get the best out of the wrong people. That, sometimes they become the right people, but it's how we I think obviously how we treat people, what roles we put them in, finding out, being curious about where their strengths and weaknesses are, and having the time and patience within our business to actually say, well, look, we've got this individual, I've put him into a role, I've employed him or her, and so it's my judgment that is it's not really necessarily the person that you're employing. If something's not kind of working right or going right, it's my judgment. I've employed them, I've used my judgment to do that. And they may not be the right person for the job, but that's not necessarily their fault. It might be your fault as a business owner that you haven't really been curious enough, you haven't understood them enough, maybe you haven't asked the right questions. But then also to find a little bit of flexibility within your organization to say, look, I put them into this role, it's not quite right, but I tell you what, I think having asked them the right questions, being curious, they'll be good at something else within the business, might be just a little shift or tweak, might be more aligned with their nature.
Well, I think in employing people, things have changed dramatically. So first of all, you're doing an interview with someone, you should have some kind of marking sheet, because you don't want to just go on your gut. Gut is important, but you want to have some kind of marking sheet. And understanding what you're looking for and the skills you're looking for and your core values is really important in that marking sheet. But secondly is, you're not getting someone off the couch. Someone's not sitting at home going, I want a job. It's not happening at the moment in the industry. There's a shortage of people. So what you're doing is you are actually poaching someone else, which is fine. There's a lot of people that are really unhappy in their work at the moment because they're not valued. So you've got to work out what you're going to say in your advertisement, rather than the normal thing, which is listing all the things you want and the skills that you want and all the other pieces. You need to find a way of attracting people by living what they want. So they want to be valued, they want to be a part of a dynamic team, they want progression, they want you to be family oriented because they've got kids, they want to be able to know they can go to the Christmas play and stuff like that. List what you want, list what they want first, and then go on about what you're looking for. But because you're trying to attract them from other places. So, and honestly, often it's not about money. If you pay the going rate, what else are you doing for your employees that's going to happen to you and make them very proud of working for your team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a key element that, people are not necessarily motivated by money. Yes, they do have to have money to pay the bills, but at the end of the day, I think most of the surveys that are carried out on people leaving jobs, they actually end up saying, well, it was because of a relationship problem, or it was, I didn't get on with my boss, or I just really didn't feel valued. I mean, how do you, in your view, you've run companies before, Robin, how do you find ways, what's the best way to make employees or people that you work for feel valued in the workplace?
Well, bring them into business. So, bring them into understanding where the business is going and make part of that. You don't force change on the people. You bring them along with you. And this is one of the mistakes I made. So that's really important. So making sure that if you review staff, so you should review staff on a regular basis, not just a salary, but reviewing them. You should be doing that to try and work out how you can best support them to be better at their job, not in how you can kind of tell them off and criticize them. So looking at it in a different way, having some kind of system in place where you review them, maybe monthly, and you set targets for them, invest in them, and you send them in courses. So most dynamic companies will have a review process, and it might happen quarterly. It won't be salary. So they'll highlight things that people are doing badly or not doing well enough, and they'll then say, well, how do we best support you to get better at that? We want you to get better at that. We want to invest in you. Is it a course? Is it mentoring? Is it, what can we do? And if you are going to then invest in them, they will feel valued.
Yeah. And I know some listeners might be thinking, this is the Construction Cashflow show, if you like, and why are we focusing in on how we're treating employees? Why are we focusing in on what motivates us, what value is? Why are we focusing in on marketing? And the bottom line is all of these things, they streamline down into your bottom line, your cash flow. So if you're not treating employees properly, their production won't be as it should be. If you're not marketing regularly, you're not keeping your cash flow going with new clients. If you're not looking at what you failed at, if you're not setting, as you said earlier, KPIs and measuring, monitoring how you're getting on, if you're not developing yourself, so there's so many things that affect cash flow at the end of the day. And we talk about cash flow and we often think about, well, it's knowing your numbers, which it is, and that's a very big part of it, and setting your management accounts up and keeping your contracts properly, making your applications on time. All of these things are the things we think about. But I suppose when we look at, we do a post-mortem on a business that has failed, sometimes it's not necessarily just not keeping an eye on the numbers, but there's, that a business is an integrated whole, isn't it? It's a holistic whole. And there could be, we talked about big doors swinging on small hinges, and sometimes it might be an issue with staff, lack of motivation. It might be, I'm not keeping my marketing going. I'm not working with clients that share my values. I haven't got a mission statement that I'm filtering down to everybody else that's working in the business. So for those that are listening that thinking, well, okay, it doesn't really sound like cash flow. It's really about taking a step back and thinking, well, what's my business? How does it function as a whole rather than little siloed how do I join the dots with all the different bits and pieces, that go to running a business, and we can gravitate to what we're good at and forget the other bits. I mean, how do you kind of cover the business, Robin? How in your mind would you advise, making sure that you're keeping all the parts of the engine going, in the business, keeping it all lubricated and not kind of neglecting one part or the other, and realizing that if you do, then it could become a big issue for the business.
Well, consistency is the most important thing, and that is backed up by systems to make system. But if you think about cash flow forecasting is the backbone of your business. So running a business, that part of it should be all based on a cash flow forecast, because we know that companies who don't make a profit take time to die. Companies that run out of cash die quickly. So, cash is king. So you'll have contractors out there, and I've met them, don't even run a program on site. It's stupid, and I'm going to use that word, stupid. Not having a current program that you're working to your backbone of your project is as stupid as having a cash flow forecast that's beyond the month, because you just can't. You've got to be able to predict things. You've got to be able to see what problems are going up. If you look at cash flow, if you know 3 months in advance you've got a problem and you have to go out there with money, which, by the way, money is just a commodity like bricks and everything else. There's a cost to it, and you can borrow it, and you know what cost is. If you've got 3 months notice, you can get a good price on your money. As with bricks, you've got 3 months notice, you can go shopping around, you can get a good price on your bricks. If you've got about 3 days, you can't get a good price on your money. And you can't get a good price on your bricks. You'd have to get a yard, they'd be double the price, you're not going to get a good price. So same thing with money. So you need to be predicting the future, what's happening. And there's other things about predicting the future is you can change things. So if 3 months before you need your bricks, you find out that brick isn't available, you can then go, okay, I'll try and choose another brick and get the planners to do that one. You could change things so you can adapt. And with a cash flow forecast, if 3 months before you think, well, actually we haven't got enough money coming in that month, you can try and find some more work. You've got time to do it. So predicting the future and looking at it, and it's a guess. No, it's a guess. I mean, programs are a guess. Like rain for 4 weeks and you have nothing done on site. You're better off with a poor guess than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember working with, when I was working with developers, and they were looking to finance their construction projects. And, the whole idea of development is that the pot of gold is at the end of the rainbow. You've got to get to the end of the project to get your profit out. And sometimes they used to cut things so fine, and not being able to satisfy a monitoring surveyor, etc., on a drawdown, or something goes wrong towards the end of the project. And you see sometimes they get into trouble right near the end. And I'm just thinking about what you said, you might be 3/4 of a way in, you're running out of money and you're stuffed. And then when you want to, the cost of money at that point is massive. Yeah, if you put money contingencies in place for that, so you might have you negotiate like a backup finance. If we needed a little bit of an injection of cash towards the end of the project, let's buy it now and get that deal in place, at 5 or 10% or whatever it's going to be, rather than run out of money and then have to go to an investor and say, we're running out of money. We've got 3 months left on the project before we get our £1 million profit or what have you. And he'll want £500,000 for it. So you're exactly right. If you don't plan ahead, if you don't look ahead, and bricks is one thing, finance is another, but the cost of money actually goes up the longer you leave it to plan. So you're exactly right. I can fully identify that.
I think development's a really good comparison. I've done a lot of developments, and if you kind of tell the banks you've got two exit strategies, you sell them or you can rent them. If you tell them at the beginning, then if you choose the other exit strategy, it's not a surprise to anyone. No one wants surprise, particularly banks. If things go pear-shaped, and you do need more money and you haven't allowed for it, you can go back to the bank and you can go, look, this has happened. It's been raining for 6 weeks, we're behind program. It's cost us money, or we've had to go down 3 times what we thought on the first. It's cost us money. We need more money. You can do that once. If you get your calculations wrong, do it twice. The bank goes, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. So, planning ahead and really thinking about how you're doing things, pre-warning people. In construction, I teach something called the customer's journey. So what you're trying to do is try and sit down with a customer, whether you be a B2C model, so you actually work directly with a homeowner, build an extension, or a B2B model where you work with architects and surveyors and the client sitting behind them. But you sit with them and you go through everything prior to starting, so there's no box. All the kind of risk areas, all the extra costs that can happen. If you can go the process without shocking them, they haven't got a chance to start kind of labeling you as a cowboy build or being good at what you do. It's just really important to sit down with them and have a process to go through. And the customer journey I teach is from, all the way from tendering, handing the unit over. There's a flow. There's things to do. There's templates. There's letters sent. There's all this kind of thing. And often people, particularly in contracting, we forget we have a customer. This adversarial approach to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because we don't manage expectations, and they end up trying to manage us, and that creates conflict.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You've touched on a subject there's a real key one, and in construction, these cultures of adversarial cultures are hard to break. And I think there is a movement in the right direction, but you're right, customer journey. And how do you see, I see in some of the larger construction organizations are very good at this sort of thing now, but when we go down the supply network or smaller projects, sometimes the smaller business owners, some are very good, but sometimes, clients get the experience of a builder that, he's starting the project. He tells them what they want to hear at the beginning, and particularly around the cost. Yes, we can build it for that. What's your budget? We can build it for that. And then they find that the project's ending up twice as much as it is. The contractors continually asking for more money, or he's going to walk off. What advice would you give to clients that are looking to employ a builder, and likewise a builder that is kind of not really seeing his client as a client and looking after his client as a, and a client's journey?
Advice. Well, if you're a client for a builder, well, use one of my clients because they all have customer journey in place. But you need to go out there and get references. You need to look at people's work. You need to really think about how they work with their clients. So you need to speak to their clients. That's really important. If you're a builder and you kind of lost control of this, and you find in your clients being annoying, and in fact, some people go, well, I'd like to be a developer because I could be my own client. Well, honestly, if you want to be a really good developer, be a really good contractor, because lots of developers get that bit wrong, how to build at a budget. So contracting and development go hand in hand because the contracting gives you cash flow. The developer eats money. So if you do both, it's a really good thing. So you need to kind of get this sort of got to understand that you've got a client, you've got to manage them, not have them manage you. And that's ever so important part of what you're doing. But you've got to strive. You've really got to be the best. And when I say the best, I mean the best you can be. When you're competing with the person in the mirror, you'll be surprised how well you do. So, just you've got to try and do the best you can be, and don't be embarrassed about getting help. Don't be embarrassed looking at new ways of doing it. I think the industry needs a bit of a shake-up. I think we need to be more dynamic. I think we need to look at companies like Google, who've got a new approach to working with their employees. We need to encourage teamwork. We need to make it writing. All this, my friends are doing. They're really involved. Their dynamic branding is fantastic, and they are getting work at a better return than their competitors, because people want to work. And they've got systems in place, and they're kind of using those systems. If you're just plodding along and you're making a living and you're not happy with that, then do about it.
Yeah, no, I think you're raising some really interesting points there. Particularly, I like your idea of looking after the client, and don't wait for the client to start managing you. I think is an amazing piece of advice. In itself, that a lot comes off of that. And you mentioned about cash flow. It's in the construction arm. It's very much. They talk about tier ones. I know tier ones quite often have a strategy where they're looking to fund developments through cash flow. So they're interested. I think there's a misconception out there. There's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of discussion around low margins, and people talk about low margins in construction. And I know that's important throughout the supply network. But when we get to the tier ones, quite often their strategy is, it's not so much the margins they're interested in. They're happy to break even or get 1 or 2%. But what's really important for them is cash generation, because they're investing in developments. They're diverting cash to develop more projects, if you like. And I think that's one thing that's missed quite often, and not very often talked about. That they need to negotiate shorter terms with their client and longer terms with the supply chain. And I've often argued that, why not, instead of doing that to the detriment of your client or your supply chain, why not include them? There must be creative ways to do that. But I think once we get to grips with the different agendas and the different missions around our strategies and how we're going to generate, how important is profit to us, and how important is cash to us, and when is cash important, when is profit important? So there's a lot of generalization about low profit margin and low working capital, when sometimes it might be the wrong question to ask. When is it necessary for us to be generating cash, and how important is that for our suppliers? Because at the moment they're quite often use the developer and the supply chain as cash cows, if you like. But it's interesting that, from a developer's point of view, it's very much a cash flow thing until we get to the end of the project. We've got the project built, then obviously it changes to different things. But then you've got a specialist contractor. He might have a higher profit margin, but he's got a higher risk of actually maintaining that profit throughout the duration of the project, particularly as he's going to 68% of suppliers get paid late, and once you're paid late, that cut, the first month you miss on the monies you're due, that's cutting straight into your bottom line on your profit. So I think that's it's a good question. Maybe that's a question we can delve into next time, and go into that in a bit more detail. But no, thank you for that. It's really really great advice. Wise words from somebody who's been there, done it, worn the t-shirt. So I'm really grateful for that. So just a couple of questions before we go for you, Robin, just so listeners can find out a little bit more about yourself. So, we always want to get out of the right side of the bed in the morning. So how do you start your day?
Well, I don't get up as early as I used to. So I kind of, a 4 o'clock riser. But the first thing I do is I have a love of dogs. So I have a dog at the moment. I used to, and I take him out for a walk. And often on that walk, because of my new life with social media, I'm doing a couple of videos while walking around. We've got a beautiful. I live in the middle of the countryside, so we've got beautiful walks around us. And I do videos in that, and that's when I kind of reflect a little bit on what I'm going to say and what I'm going to do. So just a couple of 1 minute videos. And I come back and I'm a huge coffee lover. So I have a coffee machine, so I make myself a nice coffee, and me and the dog, who's sitting under my feet at the moment, come in and start work.
Hey, great. When are you most productive?
I'm a morning person, but I do get kind of I can get productive early evening as well. So I'm definitely a morning person. Love the mornings. I can't lie in bed very long. I just, and on holiday, my friends kind of know me getting up, even earlier, and jumping out of bed and making myself a coffee and standing outside somewhere nice with a nice view, drinking the coffee and thinking about life.
Yeah, fantastic. What's something new happening in your life right now?
What's something new happening in my life? Well, I still see this is all new. So, my podcast is only a year old, so that's quite a new thing. Really enjoy that. I get the odd message. I don't know how feedback you get, but I get the odd message from people who say they're really enjoying it. I've had people phone me up or contact me and go, "I heard your podcast, really get it. I want to work with you." And that's great. So I never saw myself as a podcaster. I remember going to Chartered Institute Building event recently, and they said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a biz coach for the construction industry." And they're going, "Oh, right, okay, that's interesting, kind of. That's what Anything else you do?" "Well, I'm a podcaster." Whole room were kind of hovering around me, going, "You do podcasts? What's it all about? What's the podcast? And have we heard it?" And so podcasts are the in thing at the moment, aren't they? And I think that's quite new to me. So I still enjoy doing it, and I used to get quite nervous about recording a new podcast, and I see it as a conversation now, so I really enjoy it.
Hey, fantastic. So what does adventure look like to you?
Oh, I love adventure. Really enjoy it. So we were doing as a family, we were doing a few things, something just before COVID. We were trying to do something every month. So we did whitewater rafting down at there's the Olympic whitewater canoeing. Very scary. That was great, and we did a couple of other kind of things. Surfing. We went surfing on holiday. I used to be really into out of bound courses as a kid. My parents sent me on loads at Ullswater, so canoeing, rafting, climbing, all that kind of stuff. I love adventure. Adventure is about discovering new things about yourself. So, and I love having a challenge. So if someone kind of says, you can't do that, I kind of have a feeling that I've got to try and prove them wrong.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's right. Yeah, I'm kind of I can be a bit kind of laid back until I'm in a little bit of competition. I'm there, but yeah, I'm trying not to be so competitive. But it sometimes just raises his ugly head sometimes. But yeah, what would you say the maybe a one piece of business advice is the best you've had?
I mean, most probably consistency, but if you put that into perspective, difference between failure and success is getting up one more time than you fall over. I mean, basically, you're going to fall over one way or another. It might mean the failed company, it might not, but you're going to fall over a few times. You're going to have those moments, and you could get back up. If you kind of go, "Oh, woe is me," and everyone's ganging up on me, and it's not my fault, and then you're going to stay in a failed state. But if you go, right, okay, brush myself up, get it back up and do it, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. And that's towards failure is really important, because however you feel about life and however you feel you'll be successful, you fail at some stage. And I often see people who are really good, and I find this with clients and work for them. They say, "Oh, that guy's so confident," and part of the reason people are so confident is behind that facade of confidence, they're actually feeling like a failure. Having imposter syndrome, they have all these kind of things. When you look at someone who's really overly confident, just think maybe they're not what they see.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good piece of advice, because I think sometimes we should be curious about people and just find out, to look under the surface a bit. Sometimes we react to how they're responding or how they're treating us, and I think that idea of just taking a deep breath, taking a step back, and just saying, well, actually, what's going on in their life today? What might be driving that reaction? So I think that's really good advice. What advice would you give your young self?
Most probably to be more consistent in life. I don't think I was very consistent as a younger person. I worked hard, really hard, perhaps focused on the wrong outcomes. So I think just be really consistent. Never stop learning. That's definitely one. I learn so much. I learn for every client I have. I learn something, and I learn something to help other clients. So if I'm working with someone doing something really good, I think, right, okay, I can use that. I can use that to help other people, because that's a really, really good idea. So, good example of that. There's real value, bit of piece of value here. One client working at the moment, they get everybody in the team to put to, I think it's a WhatsApp group, something they've done wrong. Every month they've got to put one thing in that they've done wrong. And it kind of makes them kind of own up to doing these things wrong. The deal is they won't get told off over it, they'll just get substituted around it. But what a fantastic idea. So one business owner has come up with this idea for his team, that they do that. You think about people in you've met, or people that listeners might have in their team, that will never admit to be wrong. We come across all the time. It's everyone else's fault. Well, isn't this a way to help them, to actually support them to be a better person by realizing everyone does something wrong?
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I think that's a really great idea. Maybe we should. That'd be a good WhatsApp group to set up, actually, Robin. To get us all. We kind of got this group of connections on LinkedIn. It'd be great to have a little WhatsApp group. Say, what did you do wrong today? And then we can all be in the same.
Yeah.
And actually get over that fear, of getting things wrong, which is always a thing. And you mentioned earlier that leads to kind of imposter syndrome and all the other stuff that we mortals kind of suffer from time to time, But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the live stream, Robin. My apologies for I think the sound quality wasn't as good as it's the first one, so. I think there's been a bit of a technical hitch with the sound quality, but I'll go back to so I'm doing this on Restream, so I'll go back to them and find out what we can do to make it better, and maybe we can do this again, and once we've got the hang of it, and we can improve the sound quality on that and turn it into a podcast, which would be great. So it was a bit of an experiment, going live, but you only, again, what things did you do wrong? I didn't have the I didn't know how the sound was going to go. So there you go. There's my thing I did wrong for today. But I think generally it's been a great, I mean, the content, I mean, your advice and having you on has been absolutely amazing. So how could listeners get in touch with you, Robin?
Go to our website, which is really simple because it's my name, Robin Hayhurst. So it's .com. So I've got .com because I have had a few inquiries from because I thought, we'll do that. So you can contact me through the website. And I'm on LinkedIn, so always happy to hear from everybody on LinkedIn and just message me, and we can have a chat. So if people want to know a bit more about what I do, and at the moment I'm doing a kind of freebie. It's called the Construction Success Roadmap. You can sign up to that. There's links around the place, but if you ask me for a link, I'll give you a link. So a series of emails that'll help you with your business. So it's all about putting some value out there. So my approach is I'll help people, and they can take that away and use it. And if they find it really good and they want to work with me, then that's brilliant. If they want to take away and use it and get value out of it, that's also brilliant.
Fantastic. That's excellent. And just to let you know, we just had a message from Sean on the chat. Great job, guys. Plenty of wee nuggets in there. So fantastic note to finish on. So thank you so much, Robin. Thanks for coming on, and let's keep in touch.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Robin.